All righty. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of Doug's Dugout for Season 4. And back once again, I've got Mr. Doug Blunt co-hosting with me. Doug, welcome back.
Glad to be back, Danny. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing just fine. Thank you.
Well,
Trying to survive in the hot weather down here, but we're just getting started. This is only July.
well, I know. You tell me about it. I'm here suffering out here in Studio B. I'm being attacked by the mosquitoes. I've got my citronella candle here trying to work some magic to get rid of the mosquitoes. I should have been in Studio A tonight. I didn't anticipate being attacked as much.
There you go. Well, what can I say?
You know, usually I've got little Roach, who's my buddy. He comes in the last two podcasts. It's probably the same Roach, but he hasn't shown up today. Maybe he died or something. Not really sure.
No, he's on vacation.
He probably is on vacation.
Yeah, the 4th of July weekend, he took an extra day.
He probably did. So how did you
Probably
spend your
did.
4th of July holiday?
We had a little get together over here, the 4th, but I don't know, Diva's always got, Diva put on a wing ding over here, and we barbecued and, well, I
I
didn't,
mean,
but, neighbor
she goes
did.
all
And
out.
then,
I'm
yeah,
so
she likes,
impressed. I'm so impressed with her table setup and everything.
yeah, she likes it. It's amazing what Dollar General and Family Dollar can do for you,
Actually,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
she likes doing that kind of stuff, and she's been planning a party for a long, long time, and she had invitations, and she had everything, and she always finds somebody at Walmart, complete strangers to invite, so
Oh, she
they come
invites
over.
strangers?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. There was a guy that one guy was at Walmart in Los Fresnos. He's got an electric bike, and he's a veteran,
Yeah.
and she got talking to him one day over there, and she invited him, and then there was another lady that she invited, and they came over, and then the usual crowd. We don't have any family down here, so you
Yeah.
know um, we got to go with what we got. So yeah, got a lot of devil eggs left over, which I love devil eggs anyway. So
Yeah.
and potato salad. I think we got about a 5 gallon drum full of potato salad. So, but I like both, so I'm
Well,
okay. And we got some hot dogs still left over. So
well, one of the things that I recently got as a gift, and I really wasn't sure. I'm not a big fan of boiled eggs, okay? I'm really not. I barely tolerate them in potato salad. Some people put stuff like that in their potato salad, other people don't. There's people that put stuff in regular tossed salads. I'm not a big fan of that. But um, I got this boiled egg uh, contraption that boils your eggs. Instead of boiling them the old-fashioned way, you put them in this egg boil machine,
oh yeah,
and it
yeah,
does those eggs in like 12 minutes. I'm just
really,
fascinated. Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
my wife likes boiled eggs, and so she's she likes to eat that stuff. So I make her those, but it's so easy compared to how it used to be, you know. So,
yeah.
but
So
anyway,
we had a pretty good crowd, and,
yeah,
so it was okay. Yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna have to
I mean,
try to
me
weigh
personally, I'd
this or
rather
who
be out.
knows.
I missed my bike ride that night. Me personally, I'd rather been out riding a bike, but that's okay. That's just me. But I'm glad that she's happy, and
Yeah.
that's all that counts. That's all that
Well, I
counts.
didn't do a whole lot. We've been doing a lot of home stuff, painting primarily. So I spent most of the weekend doing that. I did get in the pool twice, and I did manage
Hmm.
to make it out to the gym, once. But other than that, today I was off, but I was just trying to get ready for this show today, this morning. So, which is going to be interesting, right? It's All Star Week. The All Star game is coming up next week.
The All Star games next Tuesday.
It's next Tuesday, and
Yeah, the 15th.
obviously
Yeah.
there's been a lot going on, especially on the Astros side. They seem to be on fire, even with all the injuries they've got. But they've managed to remain in first place in the American League West. So we're going to go ahead and flip over to our usual screen.
Meanwhile, my Cardinals have been struggling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We went into Cleveland, won three in a row, but then we went to Pittsburgh and lost three in a row. Then we lost two out of three in Chicago over the weekend. So we're hurting. We're not scoring any runs. Saturday we scored some runs, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Our
Let's see
pitching,
here,
we've
Doug.
got two pitchers that let us down.
Well, there's still time, Doug. There's still time. One
Yeah, it's
second.
going to be. We'll see what happens this week. We start out a series with the Nationals tomorrow, so they're in last place. So one of the worst records in baseball. So we'll see what they do. I mean, we could get hot and win 4 games in a row. We're right back in it.
Right.
Cubs are pretty. What I saw of the Cubs over the weekend, they're pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what I saw of the Cubs, they're pretty balanced team.
Well, one of the things here for the hometown team is obviously they're at 55 wins, 35 losses. They've been performing pretty strongly. They're still first in the American League West. And surprisingly, they swept the Dodgers this weekend in a 3-game sweep. And oh my gosh, Doug, I was in shock, especially Friday, July 4th. They swept them 18-1.
They play in Houston or they play in L.A.?
They played in L.A. They were in the
Oh, wow.
Lions' Den. So that
Wow.
first game,
Okay.
they swept them 18-1. And then on Saturday, it was a little better, right? They won 6-4. But then Sunday, the Dodgers went back to how they were on Friday, and they lost 5-1. But the Astros pretty much cleaned their plate this weekend. I mean, what's your take on that?
Uh, I mean, both teams are okay. I mean, Houston's not the caliber of L.A. Every team has their peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Okay, and so L.A. is just going through that one of those things right now. But L.A. will bounce back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
They just,
you know, you got to realize though the Astros are kind of in a weak division.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
You've got Seattle and the Astros, and that's about it. The rest of the teams are, Oakland and well, it's not Oakland now, Sacramento, and the Angels are not so great.
Yeah.
And the Angels manager, he's out for the rest of the year. He's got some health problems around Washington, and so anyway, I think it's just but the Dodgers will be back. They got way too much talent. The Dodgers do.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
just appeared to,
Kershaw.
yeah.
Yeah, Kershaw's coming back now. He's just getting ready to come back. Even though he made the All Star game, I think he got his 3,000th strikeout the other day, and so it looks like they're saving him for the stretch drive. So
Yeah.
I think the Dodgers they'll be in the playoffs, no question
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that. I just expected them to do a little better, right? But, like you said, everybody has their peaks and valleys, right? So,
Yeah, the Yankees got beat by who did they get beat by? The Mets? No, by somebody else. They got swept. Mets got swept.
yeah. But then
So
you know
this
how
time of
it
year,
goes. Sometimes they'll lose to the suckiest teams.
yeah.
You
I
know.
mean, really, it's just I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, but you know, this is kind of a rough time for teams are getting ready for the All Star break, and they got to determine who's a buyer and a seller,
Right.
and so yeah, so they kind of they're jockeying for position. So anyway, but
Well, on a case of bad news, Jordan Alvarez is reported that he's got more issues with his hand, so he's not playing for the immediate future. So
okay,
that that was announced last Tuesday. So they thought he was coming back, but it turns out that he's not. So what that means down the road, we'll see. Man, I'm being attacked by every imaginable insect out here. And of course, the next game is with the Cleveland Guardians, and that's starting today. I don't know what the score is as of yet, but they were going to meet up with the Guardians here at 7:10 as part of a 3-game series. So we'll see how they do, right?
yeah,
You know,
Cleveland's not looking so good this year.
no,
Cardinals went
no.
in and swept them. The Cardinals swept them, came in and swept them. I think their pitching's not very good,
Well,
but
definitely, yeah,
they may be having a down week too. So
yeah. So we'll see how they do this in this next set of games, obviously. But watch them lose to these guys. I can just see that happening. You know. And let me see where did I lose my place here. And of course, the All-Star game. That's coming up on July 15th, which is Tuesday. I believe it's Tuesday, right, Doug?
yeah, it's always on a Tuesday night.
So can you give us a little bit of history with regards to the All-Star game, how it got started,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
it involves?
Yeah, I saw something over the weekend about Kaminsky Park, the old Kaminsky Park in Chicago, where the White Sox
Mm-hmm.
played.
Right.
Okay, and the first All Star game was in 1933 at Kaminsky Park, and it was set up by Chicago Tribune sports editor by the name of Arch Ward. Okay, and what it came out of is that before that, a few months before that, or a few weeks before that, the Negro leagues they were well known for having all star teams because the Negro leagues didn't have really American League like what we call the American League or National League. They
Uh-huh.
just had a lot of leagues. Okay. And so they got all the Negro ball players together and they would play these all star games. And some of them would play against Major League Baseball. Okay. But in this case, the Negro leagues played in Chicago against the other people in the Negro leagues. Chicago was a big Negro league, it's big city, right? And they had a big black presence at the All Star game. A lot of times, the Negro leagues would have more people come to the games than the major league games. Okay,
Oh, wow.
so yeah, and there was a Negro game. There was a Negro All Star game that they pulled in like 48,000 people or something like that. Okay, so baseball, MLB decided, well, we better get with it. So in 33, they came up with this. They came up with the regular MLB All Star game. Okay, and because not only that, there was a 1933 World's Fair in Chicago, so that kind of went hand in hand. Okay, and the first game, the National League won 4-2, and Babe Ruth hit the first All Star home run and the game drew 47,595 fans. Now this is 1933. Guess what was
Wow.
going on in 1933? The Depression.
Right.
And overall major league attendance was down. That's another reason why they had the All-Star game, because I saw a video today on the old St. Louis Browns, and in 1933 they drew like, I don't know, like 300,000 people for the whole year. They had one game in 1933. They drew 33 people at
Wow.
the game. Yeah, because the Depression, nobody had any money, right?
Right.
So this was a chance for the owners to make some money. So they came out and they got 48,000 people there, and so that was a great deal. You know,
And how much do you think the tickets were back then?
not much. Maybe under $1, maybe.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I
And
was
then
actually, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. And then later on, I mean, it grew. Well, in '33, you had a lot of great Hall of Famers in that: Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, um, Dizzy Dean, just a whole bunch of them. Okay, played in '33, so that was great. And then Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin, just all kinds of great. But then it later developed. Interesting note that uh, 1945, the All Star game was canceled because of the war effort. Okay,
Right.
so they didn't have an All Star game, and then later on they had expansion, and in 1962 they had two All Star games for 2 years. Okay, and one was they were trying to build up the pension fund,
Mm-hmm.
because the proceeds to the All Star game, by the time the owners take their cut, is supposed to replenish the pension fund. So in order to build a pension fund up, they had two All Star games in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember that when I was a kid. I remember that. And then there's been some great games. The 1970 was a big one. Was where Pete Rose slid into Ray Fosse and tore up his knee. And then then there was a kind of controversy. I think it was in '85 that they had a tie game, and they didn't have any players to put in, so they just called the game. They just called it a tie.
Wow.
You know, yeah. But it's interesting to note what I remember the All Star game for is in 1963. Okay, I was 10 years old, right? Born in '53. Okay, the Cardinals, my beloved Cardinals, they had the starting infield in the game. They were all Cardinals. Bill White at first base, who later became commissioner of the American League. Julian Javier played second base. He's still alive. And Dick Grote, he was an outstanding basketball player in the University of Pittsburgh. He played for the Pirates and the Cardinals. He was at shortstop. And then my favorite ball player of all time is Kenny Boyer, number 14. He played third. And that was the last year that Stan Musial he played left field. And that game had Stan Musial, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, um, Willie McCovey, Orlando Cepeda, Mickey Mantle, just just a whole bunch of superstars.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. So I remember the '63, but they made a big deal about the Cardinal infield being the starting infield in the All Star game was a Cardinal infield.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of special.
Well, definitely, it appears that there's a All-Star Week that starts. It starts July 9th. And by the way, All-Star game is in Atlanta, as Doug mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Wow.
one of the very first things they've got is the MLB All-Star Restaurant Week. And it says there's more than 40 local restaurants that have developed a special menu item or a new dish inspired by the ballpark as a celebration of All-Star Week. Dine out and pay with your MasterCard. By the way, the sponsors of the All-Star game is MasterCard. So, for those of you that have MasterCard, you're paying for this.
Yeah.
But, yeah, as mentioned, there's 44 restaurants in Atlanta that apparently they're recommending for you to go eat. And here's, for those of you that are going to be in Atlanta, I haven't been there in years, you may want to check some of these restaurants out. But they've got several of those. So they've got that, going on. And specifically in Atlanta, they've got a few other places there. And then on Friday, July 11th, they've got the HBCU Swingman Classic by T-Mobile. Catch student athletes from Division I programs.
Yeah. I
at
forgot
historically black colleges and universities.
Yeah. They do that every year.
Yep. So they've got that going on. And then on Saturday, July 12th, Capital One, they say make your way to Capital One All-Star Village for a baseball experience unlike any other. Meet legends, throw your pitch, explore historic collections, grab ballpark snacks, and be part of the Braves. You there?
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah, I'm right
Can you
here.
hear me?
Yeah,
Doug, I lost you.
I'm right here.
Hold on. You there?
Yeah.
Hey, Doug, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You can?
Yes, I can.
Hold on. I think I lost my AirPods. Give me a second. The heck? Can't be. Hold on. Yes, I did. No, I'm there. Hold on.
Can you hear
Let
me?
me check if my Bluetooth is working. Hold on. Disconnect. Connect. Can you hear me, Doug?
Yes, I can.
I
Yes,
don't
I
know
can.
Okay. I'm not sure what happened to my AirPods. So, what do they mean when they say meet legends and stuff like that? Are they gonna have like old baseball players at like this
Yeah,
All-Star Village?
they'll have old baseball players, and for sure some old Atlanta Braves, like Chipper Jones and probably John Smoltz, the great pitchers they had back in the 90s. John Smoltz and and Gladden and those guys and Chipper Jones, and then they may go way back. I mean, can't go you know can't go too far back because most of them are dead. I mean, Hank Aaron died. I don't think Eddie Matthews is kicking anymore, and Warren Spahns, they're not kicking. But probably the Braves from the 80s and the 90s, but for sure probably Chipper Jones. You know, um, and then some other legends. They MLB, they fly them down, and then so that's kind of cool. Just like last year, we went to Minnesota game, and not Rod Carew, but um, an outfielder for the Minnesota Twins that played for a long, long time was there, and they were trying to sell a Winnebago, and he was out there. He was the draw for the Winnebago, so Jason and I
Oh,
got to meet
wow.
him. And I'm trying to think of his name. It wasn't Rod Carew. It was not Kirby Puckett, but it was somebody else. It'll come to me in a second. But yeah, he was a nice guy.
And then,
And yeah, go ahead.
of course, Geico's got a softball game, celebrity softball game happening on
Yeah,
Saturday the 12th.
yeah.
And then, for those of us that like to run, Doug, I don't. They've got a 4K run on Sunday.
4K run. Okay.
Yep. And then they've got the Home Run Derby also.
Yeah, that's always a big deal on Monday
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
And then the 2025 MLB Draft presented by Nike. Get ready for 2 life-changing days in Atlanta. All 30 clubs will draft their newest superstars during the 2025 MLB Draft presented by Nike.
Yeah. It's
Is that
it's hard for
televised?
me. The draft? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be televised on the MLB network.
Okay.
So you have the MLB network. It'll be on there. But you know, I have an MLB subscription. To the
Uh-huh.
app. I watch on Apple TV. But every year I can't watch I can't watch Home Run Derby or I can't watch the game is because it's blacked out. You have to have you have
Ah.
to okay, the Home Run Derby is on ESPN only,
Ah.
and then the All-Star game is on Fox, and it's the Fox channels that have the cable subscriptions. Okay? So I
Oh.
don't have cable. I don't have cable. So I can't watch that game, so I'm always pissed about that. But next
So you're
year,
saying that the Fox network, the off the air, will not be showing the All-Star game?
Fox off the air. Well, if you have Fox cable,
No, I don't. I have
yeah, they won't.
I stream and I do off the air antenna.
Oh, you have an antenna?
Uh-huh.
Oh, you
Yeah, I
may
don't.
be able. That's a local deal, so you might be able to get a local station.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't have either one.
I don't pay for cable TV anymore.
Okay.
So everything I do is streaming, and anything local channels, including Fox, I get them off the air.
Yeah, you'll be able. Yeah, you'll be able to get off the antenna, but not okay. But it's not on the MLB app. They got it blacked out on the MLB app. And but I think this is the same. This is the last year that they've done it because that was one of the. For I know for sure the home run derby because ESPN and MLB they parted ways.
Really?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and unless they renegotiate, which I don't think they will, MLB wants to be in charge of their own future. So I would say even with Fox in the next couple of years, Fox will be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, but you can watch it. On YouTube, they replay it the game if you
Now,
want to.
now, what's this red carpet show on Tuesday?
What's it say? I'm not familiar with that.
Says, the stars have style. Oh, this is where it said now see them show it off. Apparently, the players.
Oh,
Uh,
they
it's like a pageant, like a best dress pageant.
yeah. For example, Francisco Lindor, shortstop for the Mets,
Uh
he
huh.
has his own clothing line.
Oh wow.
Okay, yeah, and so you know, and somewhat of a dapper. Harrison Bader isn't an all-star, but he's a quite the dapper too, and so they a lot of players they like looking good,
Yeah.
so that's what they do. Yeah,
Well, then of course the game is later on that day,
yeah,
and so as we mentioned, it will be on Fox, and it starts at 7 p.m. Central Time. So
yeah.
let's go over to the virtual iPad. Give me a second. And I had to bring back the virtual iPad because for today's show, the virtual iPhone wasn't going to cut it. Too small of the screen. So give me a second here while I launch the virtual iPad.
A
Oh,
lot of
come
new
on.
names this year. A lot of new names this year. Okay.
Yeah, let me get there. Come on, come on, come on, virtual iPad. There we go. All right. Great technology. All right. So the MLB announces their 2025 All-Star roster. And in the American League, you've got, for catcher, you've got Cal Raleigh from the
Yeah,
Mariners.
he's there's a new one for you. I think he's like a second year ball player, third year, and he's got like I think the last time I heard he had like 35 homers already. Okay,
Oh,
he's a
wow.
switch hitter.
Yeah,
He's a switch hitter catcher. Strikes out a lot, but he's not getting paid for taking walks. So, he does hit a lot of home runs, and he's a
yeah.
switch hitter.
And then we've got at first base, Vladimir
Vlad,
Guerrero Jr. First
yeah,
time I've seen a
yeah.
Mexican named Vladimir. It's kind of scary. He's from the Blue Jays.
Well, his dad played for the Dodgers for like 100 years.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
his dad was not for the Dodgers. I'm sorry, for the Angels. Yeah, his dad was a good ball player. His dad was an all-star.
Yeah.
Okay, and he just signed. This guy just signed a new contract with Toronto. He's a
Uh,
young ball player. Yeah, he's been around for like 4 or 5 years.
and then
And
at second
Toronto had to,
base,
yeah, they had to sign him. Yeah,
you've got Gleyber Torres from the Tigers.
yeah, they picked him up from the Yankees over the winter.
Yeah,
He was playing for the Yankees, and he's taken off with Detroit.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
he's played
and then
real
you
well. Yeah,
and then you've got at third base Jose Ramirez from the Guardians.
yeah, one of the big stars in baseball right now.
And then at shortstop, you've got Jacob Wilson from the Athletics.
Yeah, don't know much about him because the A's are the A's, right?
Yep.
Don't see too much of the A's. I really don't know much about him at all.
And in the outfield, Aaron Judge from the Yankees.
Well, what can you say? Number 99, King Kong, you know, all world.
Yeah.
Not much you can say. I mean, he probably, arguably, either not the number one or number two ball player in all of baseball.
Hey, how did Monica Lewinsky end up at my right hand corner? What the hell's wrong? What's going on here? That looked like
Maybe she's
Monica
still,
Lewinsky.
maybe she's still selling her purses.
I don't know. And then also in outfield from the Tigers, you've got Riley Green and Javier Baez.
Yeah. Don't know much about Riley Green. Javier Baez actually at one time was a shortstop, and they moved him out to center field when he played for the Cubs. That was an interesting trade because the Cubs have got a young ball player named Pete Crow Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Cubs traded Javier Baez to Detroit, they threw in like three players. And one of them was Armstrong, Crow Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get down to the National League, you'll see him. He's a starting center fielder.
Yep.
But
And then
Javier
designate
Baez, he's been around for a while.
and then designated hitter, you've got Ryan O'Hearn from the Orioles.
Yeah, I don't know much about him at all. Baltimore's having a down year. You don't hear much about Baltimore, so not the only thing I do is when I follow Baltimore is I like Holiday, okay, their
Yeah.
second baseman, because his dad used to play for the Cardinals.
Ah. And of course, in the pitchers, you've got Hunter Brown from the Astros, Chris Bubic from the Royals, Aroldis Chapman from the Red Sox, Garrett Crochet from the Red Sox, Jacob DeGrom from the Rangers,
Yeah, he's
Max
healthy for a
Fried,
change. I guess he's doing pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah,
Max Fried from the Yankees,
he used to be an Astro.
yep, and then Josh Hader from the Astros, and
Uh,
then
used to be, yeah, used to be with Milwaukee.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then I'm going to try to spell this UC Kikuchi from the Angels.
Yeah, Yusei Kikuchi. Yeah.
Yep.
One of the bright spots in the Angels. The Angels have never had good pitchers. Never.
Yeah.
Okay. That's always kept them down was their pitching. But they finally invested in some pitching. So, he's a Japanese ball player.
And then you've got Andre Munoz from the Mariners, Tariq Skubal from the Tigers,
Yeah.
Shane
I mean,
Smith.
he's Cy Young winner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shane Smith.
Interesting story about interesting story about Shane Smith. Shane Smith was a Rule 5 ball player last year, which means that he was in the minors so long that after 5 years, if you're not up if you're with a team in the minors for 5 years, if you're not in the major leagues, you have the option of making your own deal with some other team.
Mm,
And that's exactly what he did. He's a Rule 5 ball player, kind of a Cinderella story this year.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
He
then,
was
of
buried in the
course,
minors for a long time.
Brian Wu from the Mariners.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and skip over the backup position players for time's sake, and we'll jump into the National League.
Okay.
Catcher Will Smith, Dodgers.
Well, probably one of the best, probably the best catcher in National League right now.
And then you've got at first base Freddie Freeman from the Dodgers also.
Well, they're longtime Atlanta Braves, moved to the Dodgers a couple years ago.
And then second
World
base,
Series hero.
Ketel
Marte.
Marte. Yep, the Diamondbacks.
Ketel Marte. Yeah.
Yep. You've got at third base Manny Machado from the Padres.
Perennial All-Star. You know.
And then, of course, you've got Ronald Acuna Jr. from the Braves.
He's just coming off of he hurt his knee really bad early last year, and he just got back in action, and it hasn't slowed him down one bit.
And then you've got in outfield also Pete Crow Armstrong from the Cubs.
Yeah, that's the one I mentioned on the trade with Javier Baez. Good young ball player, center fielder, left-handed, he's fast as the wind. He's real fast. Plays a very good defensive center field. He has trouble hitting left-handers. His average against left-handers is like 150, but against right-handers, his average is like 375. So I saw a lot of him over the weekend, and he went on Friday. He went four for four against the Cardinals.
And then you've got Kyle Tucker, also from
Well,
the Cubs.
came from the Astros, free agency,
Yep.
or was it
True.
a trade? I think it might have been a trade.
I
Yeah,
think it was a trade.
yeah.
And then designated hitter Otani for the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's Otani or Judge. Take your
Right.
pick. Yeah. Who's the best? I would say
Right.
right now probably Otani. I mean, Judge has
Yeah.
got a lot of power and stuff, but Otani, he can pitch. He's ready to pitch now too, and he can run, and then he can hit home runs, and just an overall great ball player.
And then for the pitchers, you've got Jason Adam from the Padres, Matthew Boyd from the Cubs.
Yeah,
And then
we
Diaz-
saw him. We saw him Sunday night against the Cardinals, and they didn't do anything. Cardinals. He's a good young ball player, good young pitcher.
Edwin Diaz from the Mets.
Coming off an injury year last year, and he's done pretty good.
Mackenzie Gore from the Nationals.
Don't know much about him. I'll see him this week, probably.
Yep.
See him tomorrow
Clayton
night.
Kershaw from the Dodgers.
Hall of Famer. Okay. got his 3,000th strikeout the other day. Um, the Dodgers have been saving him now because he's allegedly he was hurt, but I think the Dodgers know that they can get a whole year out of him, so
Hmm.
they'll just use him for the second half.
And then you've
But
got Freddie Peralta with the Brewers.
yeah,
Robbie
been
Bay.
around.
Yep. Robbie Ray with the Giants.
Yeah,
Randy Rodriguez with the Giants. Chris Sale with the Braves.
yeah. When he played for Boston, they thought he was all used up. He was always hurt all the time, and then I think Boston cut ties with him, and he went down to Houston. And he's the last year. Last year he did great, and he went down to Atlanta. Last year he did great, and this year I guess he is too.
And then you've got Paul Skeens with the Pirates.
Well, a young phenom. This is his second year. Okay, with Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, future Cy Young winner probably. Rookie of the year last year.
And then you've got Logan Webb with the Giants.
Yeah, one of the premier pitchers.
You've got Zach Wheeler with the Phillies.
Been around a while, but still a good pitcher.
Yep. And I can't spell the first name, but it's Yamamoto with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I believe this is his second year. The Dodgers picked him up from Japan.
Right.
Okay, so and this is his second year, and he seems to be doing pretty good.
Well, now we're focused on our usual standings.
Just
And of
one thing to
course,
say, for the All-Star team, each team's got to have at least one ball player.
yeah,
Okay, and they're usually if they're not in the starting lineup, they're usually reserves. My Cardinals is our buddy Donovan got in.
okay,
He's at reserve. And uh, he's a good ball player. I mean, he's the lifeblood of the Cardinals right now.
yeah.
Is Donovan. He's a second baseman, but he can play 3 or 4 positions.
Well, looking at the standings, the American League East, right now the Toronto Blue Jays appear to be in first place.
Yankees kind of hit a spin.
Yeah. I thought the
Yeah,
Yankees were on top, right? Last week or something like that.
yeah, they slumping.
Yeah.
They hit a buzzsaw.
And of course, Baltimore's at the bottom.
Surprise of the year.
Yep.
Yep.
And then the American League Central, the Detroit Tigers are in first place, 58
Arguably
wins.
the best team in baseball right now. Arguably the best team in the American League for sure.
Yep. And Minnesota's right behind them, 48 wins, 42 losses. Still, I'm sorry, no, 48 wins, 47 losses. So yeah, it's still quite a spread between Detroit and Minnesota.
Yeah, for the first time, the Twins have been healthy this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And of
Buxton.
course,
Buxton's a big man for them.
Chicago White Sox, they're at the bottom.
No surprise there.
And then in the American League West, like we've said before, the Astros are in first place, followed by Seattle. Everybody else is pretty much a weakling at this point.
Yeah.
Know? And then in the National League, the Phillies are ahead in their division, 53-37 losses. And of course, they kind of bumped up because weren't the Mets on top before?
Yeah, the Mets are on top. They
Yep.
both. I think the Mets and the Yankees are both slumping.
Yep. And of course, the Nationals are at the bottom, right?
Right. They fired their general manager and fired their manager yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, that was quick. You know.
Well, their contracts are up, so that they better. I thought they better. I guess the owner thought they go a different direction.
Yeah. And of course, in the National League Central, the Chicago Cubs, they're on top of their division.
Looking good. I never thought I'd say that, but they beat the hell out of the Cardinals over the weekend. We was managed to get one game out of them on Saturday, a
Yeah.
comeback behind win. That was pretty cool how they did that. But
Yeah.
um, they're a good team.
Yeah. And of course, as you mentioned, your Redbirds, they're at number 3 in that division.
Yeah, we've been struggling.
And Milwaukee's in second place right now.
Yeah,
So, and of course, in the National League West, despite being swept by the Astros this weekend, the Dodgers still remain in first place, followed by the Padres. And of course, as you've mentioned, the worst team in baseball, the Colorado Rockies, are at the bottom.
yeah. I think the Giants think that's the Giants. They went out and got the guy from Boston, and they think they got a chance to get making the playoffs. So that's what they did. So
Yeah.
you might see the Giants make a move here pretty soon.
So, have you ever thought of ever going to an All Star game, attending All Star Week? It sounds like fun by all those activities.
It is, but I mean, I'd like to, but it's so expensive.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the
yeah,
tickets were like $200-$300 just for the game, right?
probably.
Yeah.
St. Louis hasn't had an All Star game in quite some time.
Yeah.
Um, and there wasn't one at the new stadium that they had one. I think around 2011.
Yeah.
No, the first or second year was open 2006 or so. And then, but they've made a big deal. A couple years ago, like I said, was that Atlanta was supposed to have it, and there was some civil rights issues, if I remember right, that the players said they wasn't going to play. They had to move the. Oh, you remember the election problem they had, the voting problem they had in Georgia?
Yes. I remember that.
You remember that? Well, the
Yeah.
players decided there was a bunch of players that they were protesting that. That was the deal. Okay.
Ah.
You
Okay.
remember, the old, you had to wait, you couldn't have any water or you couldn't have any food or anything and wait in line. Larry David made fun of it. The comedian Larry David made fun of it because he gave some poor old black woman a water bottle because she was bottle of water waiting in line, and then Larry David got arrested and he had to go to court. Okay, that was on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Okay, so they had to move since the players didn't want to play in Atlanta because they were protesting that. So they moved it to Colorado. And of course, so the business people in Atlanta, they were up in arms because they had made plans. They had went out and hired a bunch of people to work in the restaurants and all that kind of stuff for the All-Star game. And they lost, the city of Atlanta lost millions and millions of dollars over the
I can
deal.
imagine.
Yeah, and they were very upset.
Now, how does
Okay,
the
and then
city actually get picked? I don't know if you mentioned that. How does the city get picked?
I really don't know. It's usually it's the cities that usually get a new ballpark.
Okay.
Okay, and so they showcase the new ballpark at the event. And that's usually the case. One year it's American League, and one year it's next year it's the National League. So it
Yeah.
goes back and forth. So you know, Atlanta ballpark is fairly new,
Yeah.
and of course, so they had to make up for what happened a few years ago. So that's how they got it this year.
Yeah.
So next year, I don't know where it's going to be at next year.
Yeah.
Um, but it definitely won't be in Tropicana Fields, that's for sure.
No, definitely not, right?
No, yeah,
Definitely not. Not in
yeah.
Central
Or
Texas
or
either.
or it won't be in Sacramento.
That's right. And nowhere near
Yeah.
Central Texas, by the way. Nowhere near Central
Uh,
Texas.
yeah, they just had it. They just had it in Dallas. Okay, at the new Ranger Stadium.
Right.
That stadium's only been open for 2 or 3 years, and the first year it was open, they had it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
But
well, hope.
they like picking an indoor environment. They usually have an indoor venue because that way they don't have to worry about a rain outs or anything like that.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know
All
they
right,
bid on
Doug.
it. Cities bid on it.
Yeah. Well, definitely there's lots of money involved. No doubt about that.
There's a lot of money involved.
Yep.
Yeah,
All righty, Doug. Well, that's it for tonight.
it's a far cry from back in the old days during the Depression where the Negro leagues would play the white All Stars and the Negro All Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, in order to raise money.
Yeah.
But the Negro players they played a half a dozen All Star games every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because they needed the money. Okay,
They needed the
so
cash.
they needed the cash, and they knew they
Right.
would draw them in.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this week. We'll be back hopefully next week. Um, so we'll get ready for the All Star game coming up on Tuesday. Hopefully, we'll be able to
Yeah,
watch
there
it.
should be some. Yeah, there should be some movement and some trades coming up because
Yeah.
we're getting up to the trading deadlines, and we'll find out who the buyers and the sellers are. A little too early
Yeah.
to find that out yet.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, the Cardinals going to be a buyer, they're going to be a seller. It all depends basically it comes down what the Cardinals do this week. If the Cardinals come in and have a good homestand and beat the Nationals and look good and pick up a couple games, they'll probably be a buyer. Okay, but if they don't, well then they'll probably be sellers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
All
and
right.
then there's some other teams like that too. For example, like maybe San Francisco or even Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, that's it for tonight, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week, sometime next week. And thank you all for watching. Doug, as always, thank you. And we'll be back.
Okay, Danny. Good night, everybody. Have a good
Good night.
evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.